And I'm
There.
Davis, and I'm joining you from Amsterdam. So we're really excited to have you here. Jean-Marie and I have been doing these Montessori live shows for 5 years. We love jumping on answering 6 years. Amazing, 6 years and counting. And we get to answer all your Montessori questions today, as well as just being in community with you all. And we're looking forward to a fun show today.
So I'm going to say again, hello, everybody from San Diego. This is Jean-Marie Penel. We are now streaming on our Montessori Show YouTube channel. I figured it out. Technology is on my side today. So there we are. So
in the chat, you can let us know where you're joining from. If you're an educator, a parent, or both, how old the children are that you are in your care.
And what are you drinking? I have my water.
I'm also on water tonight. Hello, everyone. And it would be really lovely to see your beautiful faces. So please turn on your cameras if
there's Charlotte.
If your environment allows you to turn on your camera, that we'd be love to see your beautiful faces. So everyone, today we're having a fun theme. Oh, lovely to see Erica and a little friend as well. This is fun. Welcome, welcome. They're excited. We are going to be talking about holiday season, and we thought it'd be fun to actually start by hearing about your holidays and how you celebrate this time of year, because everyone does it in such different ways around the world, and we have a very global Montessori community. We've got Deborah on the call, a grandparent, full-time care of our 12-month grandson from Kansas City in Missouri. Welcome, that's amazing.
Wonderful.
You can drop in the chat all those things. And you can also drop in the chat what your holiday season is going to look like. Because Jean-Marie, so you want to tell us how you celebrate the holidays?
Well, I think this year is going to be a little bit different because I will not have any children in my home. We are actually gifting a plane ticket to my son to go spend Christmas with his grandparents in France and meet up with his sister who's been living in Scotland. So I am taking off and going to the desert for the entire Christmas holiday. So I'm really going to just lay low and not do much. We will probably go to a nice restaurant with my husband and I, and that is about it. So very different than, what I did when I had little ones. But I'm actually really looking forward to some quiet time.
What did your holiday season look like when you had little ones?
So little ones was about, decorating the home, making it festive, not always necessarily a Christmas tree. We've done palm fronds that we've spray painted and just decorated, and just wanted to decorate. And then definitely we had presents that appeared on, Christmas night, so that in the morning the children were surprised to see presents, but I never really went into details as to who, what, how these appeared. It just was just festive. And then one of the things that, and I think that's more particular to France, is we put our shoes out in front of the fireplace, and little things appear in our shoes. So it's not the stockings as we have a lot in the US, but it's just our shoes. So we try to find the biggest pair of shoes, and there's little fun knickknacks in there, and that's about it. And I just really enjoyed that that joy of the children, of just the surprise, and then basically it's just a beautiful quiet day at home of playing with what we've gotten, and having a good meal together. So that's basically it. And always a good, lovely meal Christmas day that we've prepared, whether it's always something a little extravagant.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cozy.
Yes.
Welcome to Ennis from the UK, a mum for a wonderful 11-month-old baby boy who loves moving a lot. That sounds very much the time for movement, which is great. Erica is joining us from the Italian Alps, full-time mum, and working and studying AMI Montessori course at the moment from home. Congratulations, Erica. That's really exciting that you're doing the full course. Maya is joining us from Hamilton, Ontario in Canada, a full-time mum with a 33-month-old and an 18-month-old. Ah, lovely. Thank you for joining us. So I'll tell you a little bit about how we celebrated these holiday months, I guess, because we have quite an eclectic mix of celebrations. We've been living in the Netherlands since the children were 4. So they have Sinterklaas here, which is this weekend on the 5th. There's some Hanukkah celebrations in our family. So that meant we'd light the candles maybe a couple of times during the 8 days. So that's happening right now. My kids are now 19 and 20, so they now live at university. So much like Jean-Marie, it does not looking like that this year. And there's a bit of a letting go that happens in the 4th plane of development when I will see my children later in the month, but I definitely won't be spending Sinterklaas with them this year. I'm borrowing children basically to celebrate Sinterklaas this weekend. And one of the favorite things that I loved doing was making an advent calendar for the month. Which was just all the cozy things that we loved doing anyway, but it made it like part of our family rituals. So there was things like to buy a present for charity. One year there was an organization putting together Christmas baskets for the older people in the area, so we could actually hand deliver a homemade basket. We'd do things like, let's go see the Christmas lights, let's make popcorn, let's have a hot chocolate, really low key things. It wasn't that they were getting a present, they were just always excited. And even I did these advent calendars right up until my children were in high school because they just liked the ritual of it all. And it was kind of low key and very cozy. And so Sinterklaas had to be very small. I didn't want them to miss out on the experience because they were going to Dutch school. And I must say that I wish I had have known about like being honest and truthful about these holidays. It wasn't something that was spoken about so much like 20 years ago. And here in Holland for Sinterklaas, it's really like it's on the TV. Sinterklaas has his own news program about him coming from Spain. He arrives in Amsterdam on his horse, and
oh my goodness.
Big, like you're in, the whole city is in on this thing. But I was just speaking with a family today in class, and with her 4-year-old, she was saying, this is a tradition. They're actually a Spanish family. So again, it's like this third extra culture of things and how you're going to incorporate it into your family. She said, like, this is a special occasion that they're celebrating. It's a tradition. And they celebrate it by exchanging gifts sometimes, or hugs, and some food, and that kind of thing. And then her child, again, you set shoes here in Holland, and you get a little thing from Sinterklaas maybe. So the 4-year-old helped put the things into the shoes, and then was so delighted to wake up and see something in their shoe the next day.
Oh.
It's just like it goes to show, like they still have magic, even if they know that they were the ones putting it in the shoes.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because also when you say, the children participate, I remember at one point where I didn't like the whole responsibility of decorating the house, getting the tree and everything. I was kind of done. And I remember my children just took over when they were teenagers. It's like they chose the tree, they decorated it, and it was because they needed to continue that tradition. So wonderful. And I love how your advent calendar is really about experiences. It's not about possessions. It's great.
And also it's very sensorial because, a lot of like when we bake the paper Noten around this time of year for Sinterklaas, the smells, I also do them in my class. And it's like not only just getting to eat a little cookie, it's like the smell of the Kruidnoten. It's like a very special, this is this time.
Wonderful.
Really
Wonderful.
Fun as well. And then just talking about like we do celebrate Christmas, but the Christmas tree has been really fun. Like every year the children have been involved in like putting up the Christmas decorations, and every year they got given a Christmas decoration. So it's really fun to open up the box and go, oh, do you remember this one? And every time I have a story, and when my sister came to visit, they bought us some really ugly decorations. So it looks like something vomited on a Christmas tree. Like it's super lovely. And I've now bought a wooden Christmas tree, so it's really minimalist just with this. Yeah, it's really fun.
That you bring out every year, so you don't have to. Yeah. That's great. That's good.
And then it's mostly around food for us. We're very lucky that we have enough food, and we make Christmas breakfast and then some late lunch. And then by dinner, we're all done, really. But thank you to Charlotte here from Enriching Environments, a 4 and an almost 7-year-old in Dubai, supporting parents here with Montessori parenting. It's so true. My children know that Father Christmas isn't a real person, but it's still so magical for them. And Maya said, we just started an activity-based advent calendar, which has been fun so far. And you know what, you don't even need to buy anything. I just bought these paper envelopes and I put like a little sticker on it with the date on it and then hang it up on like some baking twine. And so I thought it looked really cute. I made different ones every year. I think once I made it in the shape of a Christmas tree. Anyway, I don't know if this is just throwing you some ideas, but would anyone be brave enough to unmute themselves and tell us how they celebrate the holiday seasons with them? And then we'll get into your questions, things like how to handle family, or some of these questions about being honest. There's a great recording which I can send with the replay that we did with Nicole Holtfluer around these questions and being honest and respectful with our children in how we answer their questions. And I love that Janini says we're working on the Outdoors Advent Calendar, available on the 1000 Hours Outside website.
That's good. That's a good one. Yeah, that's great. Charlotte, do you want to share what you were doing with the children? Because we kind of had a conversation offline about if you're able to unmute yourself. Charlotte? No, she seems like she's frozen. Oh, well.
Erica, would you like to share anything? Have you got some different cultures in your family and how you're incorporating that? It's always an opportunity to make new rituals.
Hello. Hello. Yes, we have a number of cultures, mainly Italian, obviously, Dutch. I'm half Dutch, so Sinterklaas as well this weekend, in some form anyways. He's a bit small. Also Japan, but that's mainly New Year's, because Christmas is Santa's birthday, so they still work on that day. So it's mainly cake eating with a hat on. And then English, my husband's English. So that's listening to the Queen's speech and that aspect. So a lot of food, because we're in Italy, food and lots of people. This will be interesting in COVID time. Last year, it was just the 3 of us. So I'm not sure what this year will bring with the new UK restrictions and on travel. But yes, just food and just going with the flow. I mean, the lunch can last 5 hours because you're talking and getting up and playing and sitting back down and having more food. And it's very social, obviously. It's very typical Italian stereotype. And we love it. I'm not sure how it will be this year with Achille, because he's very active. Not at the moment, because he's meant to be asleep.
Oh, okay.
But that's why he looks so grumpy. But yeah, we love the idea of sort of sensorial advent calendars, which I'd read it already from you, I think in your book, or maybe in one of your courses. So we'd love to do that. We're thinking of just doing once a week for now, not every day. But yes, that's really it, really.
I think once a week is like really manageable too, because sometimes we're doing too much. Like I remember putting together some of them on the 30th of November going, what am I doing this again for? But you know, you only had to fill up the first envelope. That's all I had to. And actually it was one of the parents in my classes was saying that they're working on delayed gratification because they received some advent calendars and the children opened the first door. Then she went out of the room and then opened all the doors by the time she'd got back, you know. So I think the nice thing about the activity calendar is you can just actually add a slip of paper into each envelope the day of, or, you know, so you don't have to worry about them. It's hard, you know, it is like building up that ability to wait. Take some time. Thank you for sharing, Erica. Yeah. Thank you. Really lovely to see all your faces, Jamuna and Maya. Jamuna, where are you based? Oh, yes, great.
Sorry, I'm happy to share. Hi, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. I'm happy to share about my Advent calendar, which is actually behind me. And this is, I don't know how well you can see it, it's a fabric one and it has little pockets with numbers on it. And what I did, and I started this a couple of years ago, is I write an affirmation for Olivia and Harry and put each one in the pocket in each pocket. So December 13th, and so I started this in 2019, is Olivia and Harry, I love you. And then...
So they're affirmations from you.
From me to them.
Yeah, lovely.
And December 22nd is Olivia and Harry, you are courageous. And then last year, when Olivia started writing, she started adding them as well. So this is her one. Actually, I think that might be just a picture from last year. And then I think this is her note from last year. That was her note from last year. And then her birthday is the 16th. So I always put something special in that one for her. And the extra bits of card I put in the 23rd and the 24th, and now because she's writing more fluently this year, she's been writing gratitude things, what she feels grateful for, and that's been self-directed, which has been really, really, really gorgeous. And and Harry starts doing it just with pictures in the pockets. And there was something else I was going to tell you, and I can't remember what it was. It's escaped my mind.
I just love the way that the children are participating in this. It's not something that is only, adult led, which is beautiful. That now that she's writing, she's able to participate.
Yeah, this is the third year we've done it, so I think it's resonating.
Right.
Repetition.
And do you change those affirmations every year, or it's?
These are most of them the original ones from 2019.
Okay.
But some of the cards have got lost or chewed or something, so I've replaced a couple of them, and I do affirmations for them every night as I lie in between them and in bed and fall asleep. So it's part of our bigger picture. Lovely. Doing affirmations for them. So. And
this is just out of curiosity, being in Dubai, is there a feeling of Christmas? I mean, is there still, because I would assume that that's not really part of the culture, but are you still kind of feeling it, or?
Definitely really, really, really feeling it. What's so great about Dubai is that there's 93 different nationalities in this city. So we pretty much celebrate everything. And actually this weekend is a long weekend. It's the 50th National Day for the UAE. So Christmas is sort of on hold for a bit while we're celebrating the 50th National Day for 4 days. But everything, I mean, Diwali is huge. There's a huge Indian community. So Diwali was huge, and then National Day, and then Christmas is huge here as well. And there's lots of tree lighting. It's hot, right? So it's a different experience. We're definitely not going to have any snow, but it's really, really rich in terms of celebrating everything. And of course, for the Emiratis, Christmas isn't a holiday that they celebrate, of course, but we find that people are so welcoming and as enthusiastic about Christmas as we are as well, and respectful.
Wonderful.
Of that as well. So yeah, it's really, really great for experiencing different festivals here. Yeah,
that's great to know. That's wonderful. Anybody else that wants to share what they have, kind of the traditions that they have maybe kept up or invented or developed?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so nice. That's me, Simone. That's me from Vilnius. I'm kind of advocate of your first book, which has been translated to Lithuanian. Because I've started like a Montessori blog, which is now like nearly 3,000 followers. And so your book is being sold in the Montessori, getting its foot in Lithuania quite quickly, and we are waiting while the second book will be translated. And the issue is that the problem with the Montessori books is that very often, was that I'm lost or something? So what happens is that sometimes when the book is translated just by a translator, not the Montessori expert, it's horrible. What happened with the Picodi book? It's just off record, and it's just completely insane. So that's briefly, and that's me who is pestering you once in a while with the weird questions, and I'm very happy to find Jean-Marie Panel. I'm a little bit jealous of all the moms who are so much doing all these advent calendars. I only managed to do one day.
That's good.
Yeah, because I'm trying to Montessori. I'm working sort of full time and staying the rest of the time with the child, which is unmanageable. So I'd like to do more of things, but can't. And I'm actually here more to ask more questions about how to share that. I listened to that conference which you mentioned about the being honest. Thank you, Simon, for sending me a link. It's really great. But now also the moms are asking me, so what should we say? And they're also horrified. No, but this is the tradition, but that's how we do, and everyone, the environment is against us, and blah, blah, blah. I hold the position you share, guys. I'm completely with you on the same page, and because it really works when being honest with the child. And a couple of other questions. So if you will have time.
Sure, no, go right ahead, because this was part of the theme of this call. Is we really want to answer your questions about that, because I think people get a little, not know, like, can I break tradition? Like, oh my gosh, this is what I did as a child. This is what my family. My point of view is that as parents, it is our opportunity, and it is
to change at some point.
Yes, this is our family, our family that we want to share certain values, and I think you have to check in with yourself as to what, how do I want to continue this in what way? And I think, honesty does not take away at all the magic and the love and the gratitude and all of this that is part of the season. It's just, saying things in realistic ways. So
yeah, just a few points. Like, so going back to the Advent calendar, me also, I'm kind of, because my toddler is 2 and maybe 3 months. I don't know. So I'm trying to put something for her, like a little task, like a little activity. Also, maybe a small poem or a word, for example, the coziness or something. Recently, I found a very nice book which has like all the. It's a little bit Montessori, but not completely Montessori, because it has some rabbits in aprons, but in general it's very pro-Montessori, because it explains words like what is tradition, what is gratitude. Can't find the author now, but I can check later on. And we also trying to do some more activities, sensorial activities in that time. I have a few questions, if I can put them on the table now, because sort of maybe later in the show you will answer. So the thing is that lots of, like, for me, it's very natural to read only realistic books. It's in Lithuanian, we don't have many of them, actually nearly none. All the books I get, they are either in English, and I sort of read them in Lithuanian, or some German books. And so the moms, they come with the question, so what's wrong with this, with the fairy tales? And I say, well, but the kids are learning about the reality. But they ask still, what's wrong? And the kids like like the fantasies. But I say, yeah, after 6 till 6, they have to learn about the reality, the way the Maria Montessori wrote, and blah blah blah. But it's sort of, maybe from my lips, it doesn't sound convincing. So I really need your advice a little bit on that. And the second thing is about the role play. I've tried to look through Maria's books and try to find that correct answer, that they ask, all right, so the kids, they use real utensils, but they still do the pretend play with other things. For example, they can still, I don't know, improvise, or they do even like sort of role play, even toddlers do it. Like my little one, it takes like a wooden snail and she feeds her and do all the other things. Yeah, there is some thing behind that she's, for 3 hours, she's going kindergarten, which is a non-Montessori, and I see a lot of disadvantages of that, because the concentration falls drastically from what it was. And also I feel that they're using a lot of command language, like sit here, in English that sounds a little bit straightforward. In Lithuanian it doesn't sound so straightforward, but it still feels all these things. And for me it's a little bit like, but for another half a year I don't have any other option. So these two questions about the books, why it's not, why it's bad or good to read the fantasy books, the fairy tales. In Lithuania we don't have any realistic books, like seriously, we don't, completely, none for kids. It's all about like neither the pictures nor the text. And second, about this, that kids still like pretend play and blah blah blah, and why this shouldn't, or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. I don't even know how to formulate it properly, but probably having so much experience, you already
No,
so
great questions, wonderful questions. Simone, do you want to touch on reality?
Start with a couple of things. One is being busy and like how you can get an advent calendar, and I've only been able to do it once. So I think that's a common question. It's like, okay, well, how do we actually make that happen? And with a toddler who's 2 years old, I would be putting things in there that you would be kind of doing in your daily routine anyway, like that we need to send Christmas cards. So today we're going to go buy the Christmas cards, and it will just be something as simple as that. And I promise you, they get as excited because they get to take a thing out. You tell them what the special thing says, and you might have a little picture next to there, like with a pencil and something like that. And then you can one day you make Christmas cards where they get to do a thumbprint on the nose of the deer or something like that. You know, so you involve them in like very easy, simple 10-minute activity that they might be interested in. I mean, I love baking with 2 years, 4-month-old. So you could do some baking rituals with them and that kind of thing. So I would just, and also I loved that, you know, one of our people on the call said, I'm just going to do it once a week for now. It's just like, what a brilliant idea. At least I'm going to do it. And like, if you're a working parent, when you've got more time to enjoy it, it's going to feel fun as opposed to doing it, all those kind of things. So I just wanted to start with that as a topic at the very beginning. If you don't have any realistic books at all in Lithuania, make your own. So I took photos of my kids baking, for example, and then I wrote a little story to go along with it. And that was one of their favorite books, is to see themselves in the book. You can make like realistic pictures. So you can make a book about farm animals. You can make a book around vehicles by taking photos. Like, I actually thought it'd be really fun to take some photos of some of the construction that goes around Amsterdam and just post it to stories, not really for the parents, but for the kids, because I get excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And I know the kids, the toddlers would love to see what was happening on my street. And there's just some incredible kind of crane work going on. Like, it's really exciting. So kind of use what's around you to maybe make your own. Jean-Marie, do you want to take over the difference between reality and fantasy?
So yeah, I mean, for one, I just want, you know, you were saying bad and not doing and all this. There's nothing wrong with fantasy, right? It's just what Dr. Montessori explained or discovered was that the child's mind before 6 years of age had a hard time or does have a hard time telling the difference between reality and fantasy. So let us feed this absorbent mind that is so much in wanting to understand their surroundings and all this, and give them concrete information, right? And that the imagination is, you know, in process, but it needs to come from them. Because when we start with fantasy, first of all, you know, does the rabbit really wear an apron like you were saying, or does, you know, babar, I used to have babar as a child, like, do elephants really get on an airplane? Like, it's confusing, right? So we're wanting to really give them the opportunity to really understand their world, which is what they're asking for, because they keep on, you know, asking us, what is that? What is this? So they need to understand. So for me, it's more about a respect of their intellect and a respect of the development. Because fantasy is something that we impose on them. It is something that it has been created by an adults imagination, and we are imposing somebody else's imagination on the children. So for me, it's more about respecting the development of that intellectual mind, giving them concrete information, and they will imagine whatever they want, which kind of leads into that pretend play, which is part of how they are processing all of this information. This is totally normal to pretend and to really mimic what they're seeing, and we hear them speak harshly and everything, and then we have to consider like, oh, is that what they're hearing, right? Because that is the way that they are processing. So that is yes.
Yeah. So all this is like, you put it so shortly and so in a concise way. So the way, like, if it comes from the child who imagines that, for instance, okay, she takes a piece of bread and says, look, mom, that's an airplane, it flies. So when they imagine the two-year-old, and so when it comes from the child, that's normal because the child already improvises, right? But if we put them like into stories like, oh, this is a Cinderella, and then she will get punished, or others get punished, blah. This is not exactly, but when it comes from the child, after he is well acquainted with reality, that's kind of fine.
Yes.
Is that the way we should?
Yes. Sometimes though, I feel that we need to be vigilant, because when the child is a little bit too much into the fantasy and the pretend, sometimes we have to, for me, at least in the classroom, and I was with the 2.5 to 6 year olds, so a little bit older. Sometimes I notice, for example, children who were maybe watching a lot of cartoons or a lot of TV were still very much in that fantasy world when they got to class, because maybe they had watched a show beforehand. So there, it's not coming from them. It's something that is imposed, and then they kind of have a hard time leaving that imaginary world. So, it kind of depends, I guess, what their environment is. But if it comes from them, pretend play, like out in the playground, they are playing, mommy and daddy and doctors and whatever, that's their imagination, and that's wonderful. And I would not stop that in any ways. Simone, you want to add to that?
So I think what I want to add is that they're living in a very concrete phase of development in the first 6 years. So that's their reality. So they can't actually tell the difference between fantasy and what's real. So there's some research, particularly around 4-year-olds, they can't tell what's made up and what's not. So that's why if there's a question in the chat, like about Goodnight Moon book, there's like rabbits that are the main characters. If you want to read a beautiful book, like for me, it was Winnie the Pooh. I really liked that story, and it was literature that I wanted to share with my family. Then I said, like Jean-Marie was saying, like, do bears usually talk? No, this is a special book about things. So I'm kind of telling them, this is a made up scenario that's not real. So, and I tried to use that 90% of my books were based in reality. And then there might just be a few traditional books that I wanted to share. And then I was very clear on making sure that I was telling them what was made up and what was real. Because, like, for example, my mum meant well, but had my son in the backseat when she was playing some fairy tales. And he then didn't want to eat an apple the next day because he thought it might be poisoned, because he didn't know that the Wicked Witch didn't really exist because of this difference between fantasy and reality.
Exactly. Yeah. They take that to heart. Like this is real information for them when we tell them those stories. So
it's again, beautiful. A little bit the same about truth telling, all those kind of things. And Mona has a question in the chat, along with Jamuna's question about fantasy versus reality. Could you please explain the main difference between Waldorf and Montessori? A friend sends her kids to a Waldorf school, and this alternative education seems very appealing. At the same time, one of their main focuses is fantasy. Thank you.
Yes. So there are quite a few similarities with Waldorf and Montessori. And at the same time, there are extreme differences. So the ones, and I'm not a Waldorf specialist, so we'll say that, but I have visited Waldorf schools, have talked to teachers and such. And one thing is that it's true that a lot of concepts are explained through fantasies, through fairies, through gnomes and and all of that. So there is a lot of storytelling, but fanciful storytelling from the very beginning. And the other big difference for me is this this notion that the child is not ready for the more academic and intellectual work before 7 years of age. And we know in the Montessori classroom that when we prepare the environment and we follow the child, and I witnessed it with my own eyes, that 3.5, 4-year-olds are fascinated with the symbols of our written language. So we lead them down that path. We introduce sandpaper letters, we introduce the movable alphabet, and some of them are deciphering and reading by 5.5, 6. So for me, it's like, why wait if there is an interest? So it's more about this protection, quote unquote, of childhood, as if it was, we had to keep them in this bubble of fantasy, is for me the big difference. But the similarities and why I think it's very appealing to many is the environments are beautiful. It's very, very creative. When you go to a Waldorf schools, they have these beautiful decorated blackboards, and just everybody is doing handwork and crocheting and knitting and things like that. So there's those similarities, and yet there's big differences. Do you know more, Simone?
No, I think the core similarity is that respect for the child,
Yes.
That is a really common part and very appealing.
Yes.
I do love the beauty that they have in their environments. Like, they create very cozy, warm spaces and things like that. There are some families who've been in my Montessori playgroup have gone on to the Freischool, which is like the equivalent of a Waldorf approach. And their child asked, "Are fairies real?" And their answer was, "Oh, I haven't seen one," So I kind of thought that could be the same kind of approach. I thought it was kind of respectful to not, if that's what they're talking about at school, they don't want to take away from that. But I think it's a very personal decision. When I was looking at schools a very long time ago for my children, between Montessori and Waldorf, it was what fit better with my home. And I was still interested in my child learning some of the, that if they were showing interest in maths and reading and that kind of thing, I wanted to give them that opportunity. And I was less, and I loved all of the creativity and things, but we were doing a lot of that at home as well. But like, for example, in the 0 to 3 age group, they have beautiful Waldorf playgroups where they're baking bread. And it's very similar in many ways to our Montessori playgroups. So I think you have to go and also visit, because I think that they're going to look different all around the world and how they're applied. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Janini also very beautifully, I say the same about Santa to my toddler. His name was St. Nicholas, and some people like to pretend he's still around giving gifts and call him Santa.
So very direct, beautiful.
It's direct, clear, but also respectful to like what other people believe. Like, some people believe this and some people believe that. And the same, like when we have conversations around death and your child says, "What happens?" And we can just say, "We don't know what happens. Some people think this and some people think this. I wonder what you think," and you can also respond with curiosity as well. Because some of the kids aren't really meaning to be rude or anything like that. They're just like asking what seems like a direct question, and we overthink it, that they ask something much more complicated or racist or something else. But we've got 20 minutes more of our call. And so if anyone wants to share how they celebrate the holiday seasons with us, or if you have any other questions that you want to ask us about dealing with family. Janini's got a hand up and Anna's has got a hand up. Janini, do you want to go first and then we'll come to Anna's? Oh, yeah.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. So I just wanted to share what we do and what we are planning to do this year. Last year, we went all crazy with too many gifts. So this year we are planning to be more mindful, and we are going with I read this cute poem somewhere online, I can't remember where, and it said, something you want, something you need, something to wear, and something to read. So those are the 4 things that I plan on. We plan on giving for Christmas this year to our toddler. And we also plan on making this thank you basket with, snacks and little, treats for our community workers, and leaving it on the front door, and writing, cards for our mailman and leaving it in the mailbox and such, because my toddler is very much into what community workers do for our community and such. So she's been asking a lot of questions about it, and we've been reading a lot of books about it. So I thought this is a very interesting way for us to involve her and, also thank our community workers for contributing for our community. Yeah.
And I really love that, because you are following her lead because of her interest in the community workers. You're also giving back. That's beautiful. Wonderful tradition.
Yeah, so that's going to be our tradition. Hopefully she likes what's in what we've planned for her this year. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Wonderful.
Yeah. And Ennis, you've put your hand down. Do you want to? Oh yeah, great.
Yeah. So I was wondering. So for people who don't actually celebrate Christmas, but live in a community where almost everybody celebrates Christmas,
right?
How do you explain that to the child?
So personally, and Simone, I'd love, you chime in, but for me, it's really about, in our family, we celebrate something different, or in our family, our values. I mean, there are plenty of communities who don't, celebrate Christmas and such. And it's true that because you have everything around that is in that stimulation of Christmas. I think it's about enjoying what is out, and it's just this is part of this season, and there are some people that are celebrating this and some people are celebrating that. And there's a beautiful book I remember actually I had for my children about celebrations around the world. And that might be a good segue of just seeing all the different celebrations. So, Simone?
Yeah, I think that it's, again, like we have the opportunity in our families to create our own routines and rituals and those kind of things. So you may not celebrate Christmas but you want your child not to feel left out. I'm not sure if you live in a winter kind of place or in a summery place, but for example, winter or summer?
Winter.
Okay, so I'll use that example. It's like I had in my advent calendar that we'd go ice skating. So it doesn't have to be that it's an advent calendar for you, but it might just be that it's a winter calendar to make it cozy, so that they would still get to go ice skating, but it's more just part of the winter things. Like we go and see the Christmas lights, but it could be we're going to see the winter lights, and because that kind of thing comes out around that time of year. And then actually on Christmas Day, that's the only bit that's different, is that in our family we don't exchange gifts. We do that at a different time of year. Or when that happens, it's not something that's part of our religion or our traditions. We have our own special, you can make, again, your own book, or I love Jean-Marie talking about celebrations around the world, somewhere where because part of anti-bias education is like the first goal is for the child to feel like they understand their own identity. So I would do a lot of identity work on what is their identity, how do they see themselves represented, if in their preschool or their community environment, like if they were coming to playgroup classes. I would love it if the parents said, oh, could we bring our menorah, excuse me, and show you how we light the candles? Because I want every child to feel represented. And rather than me just singing Hanukkah songs to do it as a tokenistic thing, this year I've said, is anyone celebrating Hanukkah this week? And everyone, and some people said, oh, yes, we are. And I said, is there a song you'd like to sing or anything to share? And they said, they didn't want to sing, but they mostly told us about how they light their candles and what it meant to them, and that they play with the dreidel. And that is a way that the child hears about their own rituals being included. So that would be a conversation that you could have with, if you're at a play group or a preschool and those kind of things as you go forward. So your child doesn't have to, they get to show how they celebrate things differently. I think more and more schools will be open to that. Dennis, does that help a little?
A lot. Thanks.
Good.
Lovely. Also, can I go back to one? Oh, just a minute. Enriching environments, yeah. So Charlotte says, in my daughter's elementary, there are 6 different nationalities and 4 different religions. So we have the opportunity to explore other customs and practices all year round. So before we get to Mona's question as well, I wanted to go back to Jamuna's question. No, it wasn't really a question, but a comment about traditional schools, that your child was at a traditional preschool and that was the only option you have for the next year and a half. Is it okay if we unpack that a little bit more? Because I think it's a common theme, is like, I'm not doing Montessori and those kind of things. But what I wanted to say is that's actually a really common situation. But what I love is that we're doing Montessori at home and the child's getting a lot of the Montessori approach from you, the way that you're respectfully parenting them. And actually, I don't want to overstep what a preschool says or how they do things. I want to kind of be supportive. I want my kids to hear me being supportive. For example, my children went on to traditional high school. They didn't go to a Montessori school. And instead of me saying, oh, it's not Montessori, this and that, I was really critical a little bit about all the tests they had to do. And I had to really reframe how I was talking about the tests so that they actually felt like I did respect the school they went to, and maybe they could do it differently or something like this. So I think just to keep in mind, what's the story that we're telling our child about their school? Are they hearing us kind of complaining? Or how can we also support the traditional, like, I think it's a very common situation. And to say, like, even if you were at Montessori school and you need to go to a traditional school when you move house, your child already has an amazing base. They're they're going to be beautiful children. You're already such a conscious parent by even being on this call tonight. So all of those things, I just didn't want to dismiss it and say, yeah, for you to feel that you're not doing the right thing by your child and feel that you're breaking their concentration. It's just their concentration looks different in different places. Isn't that interesting?
Beautifully said, Simone. Thank you. We have Mona who has her hand up.
Mute herself 1 second.
Wait.
Jamuna just unmuted herself a second.
Yeah, just to finish up the topic. The school is quite nice. It's considered like a good, what do you call that, kindergarten or whatever. They do lots of activities with kids. They even sort of do the Montessori shelving. I mean, they have a very mixed concept. I think that the main issue in Lithuania and probably everywhere, it's a lack of trained staff. Even in the 3 Montessori kindergartens from 3 years, they don't really, maybe they have 1 trained staff and the others have kind of know about and kind of try to handle with that. So that is the main issue here. And and the thing is now we have to do in this traditional ones, they do, now we have everyone to do this. And even if you're interested, you've got to finish because we got to move to that another activity and everyone got to move because that's the way we are. So yeah, but otherwise, I've just put down your comment. I think that's a good reminder about the story we're telling the kids about whatever changes are happening. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, great. So definitely a very common situation for us to be in traditional education in some way and also doing Montessori in some ways. And your child will know what you do at home. It might be different to what they see in their school environment.
Yes, and I would love to add to that because I had my children in traditional schools, even though I was working in a Montessori classroom. It just so happened that they didn't take my 4-year-old at the time when I was working there. My oldest one was already 8. I kind of discovered, Montessori kind of late, but I continued doing Montessori at home. And I used some of what I was learning in my training to help my child learn a concept or memorize something, because there's plenty of techniques that we learn. But it's true, so true what you say, Simone, about being in check in what we say, the dialogue, first of all, that we have in our head about it, but also what we say, because I did sometimes voice my disagreement or disapproval of what was going on in my children's classroom, and it turned around and bit me because I wasn't being supportive. So that was a great point. Thank you for that.
And the last thing before we get to Mona, we're getting to, I promise, is to say, sometimes there's actually a really strict Montessori school and it doesn't feel right to you. And sometimes I actually prefer the local, traditional school, but it's loving staff, because respect is like one of the most important things that I think we can give the child. So, you know, it might be that they're all doing a group activity, but they're doing it with love. And I would sometimes much rather that than a Montessori teacher was like, that has to go back. You haven't had a lesson in that. And it's like, you know, we see many variations on what Montessori is.
So true. Why it's so important for all you parents when you're looking for an environment for your children is take some time to observe. Very important. You know best.
Janine added, I had someone tell me their child attends a Montessori school where the teacher says good job for everything. So yeah, there's such a
oops.
Okay, Mona, unmute yourself. Thanks for waiting.
Hi there. Thank you so much for hosting this session. I've learned a lot. And actually, just a small comment with the previous question. I'm thankful that you guys were talking about that, because my husband and I right now are talking about whether sending our son to Montessori school is something that we can even afford. We live in Canada, and Montessori education here is extremely expensive. It's more expensive than a year of law school and university, just to put it that way. So anyway, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. The question that I have about the holidays and family relationships is how to handle strong emotions, not the child, but the parents, like our parents, like grandparents. My husband and I tried for 8 years to have a child. So this is our son, he's 20 months old, and we waited and prayed for him for a few years. And now that he's here, obviously my family and my husband's parents are very excited, very, very excited. My husband is an only child, and this is the first and only grandchild on both sides. And so when we get together with both families, it tends to be very overwhelming for our son. Mm-hmm. And it's overwhelming for my husband and I as well. We love our families. We're very close to my side of the family in particular. The things that we find overwhelming, that I'm looking for some scripts or advice or perspective here, is things like when they get home, there's this expectation for our son, who is 20 months old, to say hello to everybody, hug everybody, kiss everybody, you know, because they're very excited. They haven't seen him in a few weeks or whatnot. And I feel like because the grownups are so excited to see us and to see our son in particular, this is not voiced out, but I see it. It's like there's expectation or this hope for performance on the part of our son. Like, show us everything, you know, like, what have you been up to? But it's like so much hyperness and excitement that it's really overwhelming to our son. So then he starts going everywhere and jumping, and just like he's like, oh my goodness, everybody's giving me so much attention, all of these tall, big people. And so if he has a little bit of a meltdown because he's overwhelmed, then one of the grown-ups will say something like, oh, what's the problem? Like, what's his problem? You know, like nothing's happening. And so I've tried to say like, oh, I think he just needs a little bit of space. And there's been some times that either my husband or I actually will take him upstairs to his bedroom. We have a little reading nook for him. And we just sit with him and we say, you know, we're just going to have a little bit of a calm time here. And then he'll read, and then he'll calm down, and then he'll stand up and he will want to come downstairs again. So that's something that we've tried. But it's just the constant attention, and he's the center of attention, that I find overwhelming for us and for him. Their will is positive, they're excited, they miss him and everything, but it's like the meal times as well. Like, we're very I'm pretty sure that you're familiar with the division of responsibility approach to meal times, where like we offer the food and it's our son's decision whether to eat or not. And we don't really pay a lot of attention as to whether he's touching the food or eating or whatever. Like he's trying to figure it out and become an intuitive eater. But with meal times as well, it's like everybody's looking to see if he's eating, if he liked it. Oh, you liked that? You touched it? Did you like what I made? Because it's a potluck. So all the grandmas and everybody wants to find out if he liked the food that everybody brought in. So he doesn't end up eating that much. And then they end up saying out loud, like, oh, is he a picky eater and whatnot? Those are some of the examples that I have. I don't think, or like my families, we love them. They're not mean-willed or anything. It's just, I know that he's their only grandchild, and it's overwhelming and they're excited. I get it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally understand.
And if I may, I will just say, you know, this is unfortunately very common, but I think it really is, if you can, you know, just have a nice conversation with them without your child around, and just acknowledge this love and excitement, and you know, how much they are supportive and all of this. So really, you know, let them know how much you appreciate, and the all eyes on the 21-month-old is overwhelming for him. So can we maybe try to just, you know, tone it down a little bit so that we let him come towards you and so forth. And again, you know, it's kind of what I said at the beginning about traditions. We are always going to have, I think, pushback from our families, from our elders, about how we are parenting differently. And that is our, you know, that is our privilege. Like, we get to parent now, like we were parented and now it's our turn. So we, you know, we have to kind of step into that role and say, you know, I really appreciate all of what you've done for me and how you've raised me. And now it's my turn and I'm trying something different. So, and I'm asking for you to respect that. So it's just about having that very, you know, loving, kind conversation with them, and to be, you know, at the same time, your child's advocate. So maybe when you're going over to their house or they're coming over, just, you know, a nice little reminder of, you know, remember, he's just 21-month-old. Like, can we tone it down a little bit, or just, you know, very loving reminders. Simone, what's your take on that?
Well, I love all of those suggestions. And I actually thought there's probably a lot of people in this Zoom room who have some great ideas. So I would love to put it out to folks in the room. What do you do when you have that situation where your family's a bit intense? What kind of conversations have you had? What's worked? What are you still working on? Jamuna, you've unmuted yourself. Would you like to talk to that?
Yeah, you know, actually, like, I mean, I think like 2 months ago, I wrote an article, how to translate, like, say bye-bye, like, literally the name, and it was brought back so much of discussion of the ones who actually supported that you shouldn't force the child to tell bye-bye, and especially a toddler who gets so overwhelmed with everything, and the others were saying, and what's wrong with that, and the family is loving and blah blah blah. And I'm the parents of my husband are very traditional, and kind of like really the mom is very bossy. And for example, the one of the cases was, for example, we were learning to cut things with a knife, and I put her food, and she brought the knife, so excited, and then she was getting ready to cut, you know, something, and the grandma just took and she cut everything, and the child was like, oh, because everything what she was like so much excited to do now, it was done for her, and so on and so on. But the way I try to manage that, and like Jean-Marie mentioned, like to try to talk kind of like, you know, we do it this way. I would really appreciate if you would do this way. And, you know, this is, you know, because I'm a yogi, so I'm already crazy, and now doing this Montessori thing, which is already crazy because she heard about it, but, you know, she has all this, you know, like someone told, but she doesn't really know the way it is. I'm a little bit crazy, and every time she's trying still to push through her own approach. But at this moment, I'm kind of like, don't let my child there by herself, but it's a lot of talking that, you know, we do this way and I see a result and this is the way it is done and it is an educational approach, but not at the time when they're in everything. So it's probably like maybe you meet those your grandparents somewhere in the cafeteria when the toddler is not there, and just mention how much emotions that involves, and see how you could share that middle path, like so that they can contribute. For example, there's a lot of like, she would still buy this strange journals, which I, even for me as an adult, is like, they're kind of like useless. And I say, let's, you know, every €3 and €3 and €3, I have a list of books and materials I'd like to purchase, and I would really appreciate. So maybe you want to contribute and I want proper things, and let's see how we can find the middle way that you could be a loving grandma and I can, and we can still do with approach, and actually that works, because for example, when we find like a gift that I see that it would be proper for the child, and I put that it's from the grandma, and the grandma contributes, for example, financially, and then she sees how excited is the kid, and I also try to limit her not to intervene when the child is doing something. And when she sees result, I mean, her hands are still itching to do things for the kid and everything, but it's a lot of communication, and I mean, it's constant communication, so it's actually much more, it's a harder work than with the toddler. But you know, that's what it is.
Yes, no, I really like that, and the fact that you're communicating. But one thing also, to go back to Mona's, is also talking to your son, kind of reminding him of where he's stepping into, right? Just like when we go to the park, we remind about certain things, or to the store, we're going to grandma and grandpa's house, and remember, they get really excited about seeing you, and just, you know, in a gentle way, but to also maybe prepare him for that surge of emotions. Anybody else that has the same kind of
Yeah, so I see Janini's got her hand up, and also Erica's written in the chat, I draw attention to how my son is. Look, he enjoys doing it himself. If we wait, he will do it himself, etc. Or explain the philosophy, for example, by eating. I'm trying to help him have a positive relationship with food in general, not focusing on whether he's eaten the carrot this meal, etc. To which I would also add, like, I love translating for the toddler. Oh, are you finding it overwhelming right now? Oh, grandma looks like she's really interested in showing you that. And so translating for both of them, because like, you're kind of mediating a little bit as well. And I'd love to hear from Janini, and then I'll come back with like a last idea. I can't believe the time has just flown. So this
yes.
I was just going to say, Simone, I was going to say the exact same thing. I usually end up being the mediator between my parents and my toddler. If I see that they're very enthusiastic about something, and my toddler is having like this blank expression of, oh, what is going on? Then I try to explain to her, oh, I think grandma is feeling so and so, and she really wants to see you do this. Do you want to do it? And then I pitch the question to her and give her the choice if she wants to do it or not. And sometimes she's willing to, and sometimes she's like, no, I don't want to. And then I again translate it back to my mom saying, oh, looks like she's not in the mood today. It's still a work in progress, because I'm the only daughter for my parents, and she's the only granddaughter. So, you know, and they live in India. We live in the US. So it's they haven't seen her in 2 years. So it's a lot. When they come on Skype, they get a very, very teeny tiny view of what's going on in her life. So it's a lot. So I tried also to be empathetic towards them, because it's 60 years or 70 years of their life saying, you know, being raised saying good job, and also having raised me saying good job and clapping for everything. So they cannot change overnight. And, you know, I have shared articles, I have shared researches with them, and they get it. I mean, logically they get it, but, you know, when it comes to practicing it, they're not 100% mindful, and they tend to slip up sometimes. And then my mom's nudging my dad, or my dad's nudging my mom when they clap. One of them claps and like, oh, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You know, it's just it's very, you know, interesting to see how they are making the effort in spite of the age and the way they have been brought up. So I have to be more empathetic towards them as well. So yeah. So giving that space for them. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And the last thing I wanted to add was like to try and work on it as a family, to kind of be able to say to them, oh, can we talk about the holidays that are coming up? What I'm noticing right now at 20 months old is they're starting to feel overwhelmed when they come into a room full of people. And it might be really fun for us to just set up something really like low key for them to start playing with. Or can you think of something that would be nice? Like, would you like to set up a baking activity or have some Play-Doh there that we can just sit and, you know, so actually kind of involve them, like, we have this problem, how can we solve it, you know, but get your parents on board that way, as opposed to, they do feel criticized that we aren't appreciating their parenting and that we're doing something different. So I'm really sensitive, like Janini said, to their experience and that kind of thing as well. So Mona, I don't know, we've thrown a lot at you. Does any of that resonate?
Everything. Thank you so much. I think the empathy part is what's important, because I get where they're coming from. That's what I'm saying. Like, they're not ill-willed. I'm just finding it really overwhelming myself. Like, if I'm finding it overwhelming, he's finding it overwhelming, you know? So thank you so much. That really helps.
Good. Yes. And share that overwhelm with them. Just, you know, be upfront with what's going on. So wonderful. Well, this was an amazing call.
Yeah, Zara said, I agree with Janini, and that's what I've also been doing with friends and family, and also appreciating their concern. Yes, sorry, Jean-Marie, please finish.
No, I was saying this once again. I'm, you know, sometimes we were waiting for all of you. We hadn't really had responses, so we didn't know who was going to show up, and it always ends up being a beautiful show with all of you, beautiful souls showing up and sharing what you're doing in your homes and your questions. So thank you, and the happiest of this holiday seasons to all of you, in whatever fashion you celebrate the winter month or the summer month, wherever you are on planet Earth. So thank you.
I love that Charlotte also just added, I depersonalize it from Montessori until grandparents is the latest neuroscience. And
Perfect.
You don't actually need to use the word Montessori, because that can freak them out. They don't know what that is. Like someone said, like, I'm a yogi, I'm not doing this weird Montessori thing. It's like, just focus on the joy that the child is in, like doing, how capable they are, and get them on board that way slowly as well. We have a Montessori dog on the show today. Hello to Erica's dog. I want to also say thank you to everyone who participated in the call. I think tonight, more than ever, like just having a sense of community, having your experiences of how you're celebrating the holidays, having you all answer each other's questions. We're really grateful to you all, and we'll be doing it again in a few more months. So we'll email you when the next date is. Jenny, thank you. Wishing you all a happy holidays.
Yes, and a very happy new year, bringing in 2022.
So feel free to unmute yourselves and we'll say goodbye.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Hi, Caitlin. Nice to see you.
Bye-bye. Okay, I have stopped the recording. So it worked. It went to YouTube.
Oh, great.
It was, oh, Sarah wants to come back. Nope.
It's okay.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. It went back, it all worked. So I don't even need to